Greetings and welcome to this segment of Bring It On. My name is Bob Hayes and I'm going to be a show host for today's segment of Election 2024. We've done some school committee candidates, ladies and gentlemen, and we've done some select candidates, and I'm trying to wrap it all up this week. And Joe Weeks is here. He's a candidate for re-election to a 3-year seat on the Board of Selectmen in Hanson. Joe, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
It's good to see you. Good.
It's great seeing you.
Joe, you've had many, many years in public service and many different hats on the Board of Selectmen to every
Housing
kind
authority.
of board in the town.
Yeah.
And you can tell the people that.
Yeah.
But before you tell us about you and all of the stuff, there's a white elephant in the room that everyone in town, not everyone, critics maybe, I don't know what you call it.
It's election
Where do you live, Joe?
Yeah. Well, it's election season, so you expect that to kind of
Okay,
pop
I'm
up.
great
So
with that.
I appreciate the hard-hitting questions going first. I live in Hanson. Let's start there. So I lived in Hanson. This is my third location in Hanson. People have known me since I first started running when I lived on Hancock Street, and then I got my dream job, moved over to, and then I ended up getting my dream house on High Street, and now I'm living on Reed Street, right across from the AA. You see all those cars over there, and you're looking for a quick place to go for an after party. Come right across the street. That's where I'm at.
Joe, I remember when you lived on Hancock Street.
Yeah.
I used to call it the house with the light show.
That's what it was.
The
That's
house
what
with
it
the
was.
light show.
Yeah. Now we got a long driveway, so the light show has to come out a little bit further. But
Well, that's cool. Well, give the viewers a quick snapshot, and we're going to jump right into all the things that we think might be going on in Hanson. Mm-hmm. Your history. I know, like I said, you've been on numerous boards.
Yep.
Probably every board in town.
Yep. I've been on a lot. So I started off, and the story has always been the same from day one. When I bought my first house in Hanson on Hancock Street, I was literally in the U-Haul, drove right up to Town Hall, and got myself registered and wanted to jump in as quickly as I possibly could. In doing that, my very first stint was on the Capital Improvement Committee. I've been on the Capital Improvement Committee for 15 years, something like that. Been serving with some great people, past, present, and going to be in the future. I was on the Housing Authority. I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to be entrusted to chair that for a few years. I was on the Planning Board, and again, lucky and fortunate enough to be entrusted to chair that for a few years. And then I went and became a selectman. The fate allowed that to happen. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of great people helping out, and made that dream a reality. And then I've been on the High Street Park Committee, which we have some great stuff going on there. I was liaison to all kinds of different committees as a result of that. And I've loved every minute of it. I really have. I love volunteering. I love municipal government. I've dedicated my whole life to it. But prior to that, I was on boards in different towns. I was on FinCom in Rockland. I did a bunch of stuff, and it's really a passion of mine.
Joe, what do you do for work? Do you work in Hanson? Or?
No, so Jamaica Plain. I'm a counselor, and I oversee a multitude of programs. I have over 15 years of experience overseeing everything from outpatient clinics to community-based resource centers to substance use clinics. I've ran 766 public schools, 766 private schools. I've coordinated with public schools. I've run 24/7 group homes. My specialty is with working with children and families, and I've enjoyed that for my entire professional career.
By schools, like a private school or maybe an at-risk school? Is that the right terms? I mean,
yeah. So it's a 766 school, which is a private funded school that public schools send kids to that are struggling to access the curriculum and get fair access to public education. So we provide behavioral health resources, we provide ABA resources to be able to get kiddos to be able to meet those needs.
Well, before we're done, we're definitely going to touch on schools. So
I would love that, yeah.
Yeah, we definitely are.
Yeah.
As soon as I get the halfway signal, we're probably going to go right to school.
Yeah.
Joe, there's a lot of talk, and there's been a lot of talk, and you probably heard it, and people in town say, I wish they would stop building. And meaning they're talking about the Board of Selectmen. Could you just explain to the viewers what the Board of Selectmen's role is in a private piece of property and stopping someone from building a house or from building a multi-apartment building? What is the role? Because people seem to think that the Select Board can come out and just wave a wand and you're not building anything. And I think it's much different than that.
It is much different than that. In fact, one of the things that resonated with me a lot was when Ed Heal and Ann Rein became select people on the board. And both of them at different times, and Ann, I think, in this similar interview had said, it's very different on that side of the desk.
Yeah.
What you realize very quickly is when you run for selectman, you think you have all these powers to make all this difficult, all this substantial change, but in reality, you actually have very little. So the Board of Selectmen really can't do anything related to private lands regarding that. They can't. We entrust the zoning board and the planning board to be able to make those decisions. And a lot of the times, if you feel like the direction of the town needs to go in a certain way, you would elect people to the planning board that have your same values and are going to be able to advocate for you in that seat as their constituent in that way. The zoning board is obviously appointed by the select board, so you would have empowerment by electing those appropriate officials. But in terms of just what tangibly can the select board do, not much. We really can't do much. And take it a step further, when it comes to private property, I don't think, I for one am not somebody that's going to say that government should encroach on people's private property. I don't believe in that. I'm pretty staunch in that. So, it's very limited in what we're able to do.
Okay, well, getting to housing.
Yeah.
There's another big discussion in town about 750 buildings, as some people put it, or 750 apartments. It comes out in all different forms, are going to be built on a 15-acre parcel by the train station. Can you touch on that a little bit? Because people are scared.
Yeah,
and they want to know, right?
I'm one of them. I mean, one of the things that I think you're going to see, not just with all three candidates, but you're going to see this with the entirety of the select board, because we've been all vocal about this, myself as well. You can go back and look, is I'm very much against being mandated to do anything. I don't think that the way that the state is doing this is actually brokering a partnership. It feels very, very strong-fisted. It reminds me of the saying that if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and I feel like this is one of those instances in which they're trying to really power something through. That being said, we are putting things together when this goes to the town meeting to talk about what it actually is in terms of really, finite details, concrete details. What I don't like is the idea that the state is coming down telling us we have to do the zoning of this thing to provide the opportunity for these buildings to come. But if we don't do that, then we're not going to be able to access grants. We're going to be excluded from grants that have been astronomical in the success of us being able to provide resources and be able to do infrastructure repairs throughout the town. So if I could get rid of it altogether, I would. I think all of us are protesting it. I think the planning board, who was entrusted to do the zoning of this, did it really smart. They were able to zone it in a way that it is going to make it really hard to actually build on these places in these zoning areas. But it doesn't mean that 750 buildings or units are coming into town by any means. I moved to Hanson a long time ago because my kids have a lot of history in the town of Hanson. It goes back to the highway building when it was the Cranberry building. Their grandparents have said time and time again to you, actually, in this stage, that their great-great-great-grandfathers, Marcus Uran, invented ocean spray. That's my kid's legacy. I came here because there's legacy, there's beautification in the area. Hanson is a great bedroom community. I don't want to see that go. I don't want to see it overdeveloped like anybody else does. But the state, unfortunately, is putting this mandate that we zone it. Again, planning board did a fantastic job, but I do want to let everybody know it doesn't mean that anything's getting built. And we're all very much against the way that this is being rolled out.
Joe, there's rumor that, in fact, again, I have to say it's rumor because I don't know anything be factual until you chase it all the way to the source.
Yep.
That if a zoning area is created, no matter where it is, this is what the governor is looking for, to create a zoning. It may be unbuildable land. But it needs to, the first thing is it needs to be created or zoned. Does that sound right?
That's exactly the way it is. And the planning board, again, did a great job of listening to the letter of the law, the way it was rolled out, and doing exactly what it says. It does not say that the land, at least from our understanding of this, it doesn't say the land itself has to be buildable or built upon. It just says you have to zone for it. That's it. That's why I want to be adamant that it does not mean once that zone is created that all of these units are coming in. That's not what it means.
Okay. All right, great. Well, while we're talking about property
Yep.
and people wanting it stopped in that small town, because Joe, I've lived here over 40 some odd years myself. I moved here for the same reason.
Yeah. Yep.
The Main Street corridor, some people call the Main Street corridor from 58 to Tri-Town.
Yeah.
And most people think of the Main Street corridor from High Street to Elm Street.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically.
But I mean, that's kind of where the little businesses are. I mean, some people think the center of town is where Shaw's is.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I've lived here a long time.
True.
People go, oh, the center of town's where Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. You could just pick a couple of different places.
Throw a dot and see where it lands,
Yeah.
right? The Main Street corridor seems to be getting built up, and especially where Mr. Egan's building those two beautiful buildings and where the old Landis house was. And I think, I don't know the number of the street, but I think 1,000 Main Streets across the street.
Sounds right. Yeah.
It used to be the popcorn building, we called it, right?
Back
in the days, I mean, my kids were younger, they'd say, Dad, let's go get a bag of popcorn.
Yeah. Yep.
And so he's building these two beautiful buildings. They're going to be mixed, as I understand it, mixed apartments. I mean, he's got a gorgeous one in Whitman, and he's done a wonderful job.
It looks fantastic. It really does.
When it's all done in landscape, it's going to look beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The Cranberry building next door is the next up for sale.
Yeah.
It is for sale.
Seems that way, yeah.
Yeah, there's a sign out front, it's for sale.
Yep.
You know, people have talked about it. Do you think there's any chance of, because the train station, because people are also worried that could be zoned and all kinds of more housing. People are worried about this housing situation. And so the Main Street corridor, do you see it maybe picking up and bringing more businesses to Hanson? Like people are all over the internet, and we'll get to the internet in a minute.
Yeah, my favorite
about
thing.
restaurants, you know.
Yeah. No, I think, I think people in this town are looking for increased commerce. They're looking for mom and pop shops. They're looking for restaurants. They're looking for business. Right now, we're a bedroom community, and I think Don Howard used to, repeat it and say it, all the time back in the day. It always stuck with me that we're a bedroom community, and we don't have a lot of business. We don't have all of the tax burden, rests heavily on housing and private taxes. There's not a lot of commercial taxes, and there's not a lot of businesses here that make up for that. So I think a lot of people here do want to build up Hanson because there is a lot of things here that are attractions. We have really successful businesses in Hanson, so it's not like it's impossible to get a good, online business out of a building in Hanson and be able to do something that's not going to increase, heavy traffic flow in traffic areas. But still be something useful for an average new age business. But I'm right there with everybody else. I don't want Hanson to be overbuilt. I don't want the aesthetic and the ambiance that I've grown accustomed to and chose to live in Hanson. Again, I've moved in town 3 times. I've had 3 opportunities to move out, and I choose to stay here because my kids are here, my grandparents are here. You're going to hear me talk about this a lot. In fact, if you're one of those people that likes to go to sleep hearing the sound of my voice on YouTube, I talk about this at the selectmen meeting all the time. I got both ends of the spectrum, literally living in the house that I live in. I got my grandparents on one side, fixed income, grandfather's 93 years old, and I got my kids living with me as well, representing bus 3 and bus 1. I love them. They're great. They're the most prompt bus every time. They say they're going to be there at 7:20. They're there at 7:20. They say 8:23. They're there at 8:23. They're the best. But I get both ends of the spectrum, and I have to take into account what my kids' futures are going to look like and what my grandparents' futures are going to look like. And I think the way the town looks is something I take pride in and I want to have a say in. So to get directly to your question, though, as someone that's on the High Street Park Committee and working with someone like Laura with the Economic Development Committee, there's so many opportunities over the years and so much work that's been going in to try to beautify and connect those areas, to try to bring somewhat of a new aesthetic and a new attraction to town without driving up high traffic areas. We want to keep that rural area feel. We want to make sure that that Hanson is what we all have loved in the past and continue to want to see. So again, not to belabor the point, but I don't want to see an increase in building. But again, you got to go back to it's not just the selectmen that control this. A lot of the times we're relying on our partners in the planning board, the zoning board, Board of Health. They have a lot of control in these things too. So if you're the person that's really involved and you want to make a difference, yes, come to us. We absolutely want to be there to help. We want to point you in the right direction. But there are other boards and committees that I think you should pay equal attention to. They need to hear your voice.
Joe, I talked about this, I believe, with both the candidates. Maybe only one though. Because we go from question to question and it leads different places.
I could talk about anything. So.
We talk about town meeting as being the most purest form of democracy.
Yep.
It's pretty sad, though, when we have 8,000 voters and we have trouble getting a quorum of 100 people.
Yeah.
How do we, this is a very difficult question because people have asked me it several times, how do we get it to more people to come to town meeting? Two of the biggest town meetings ever I happened to be at, and it was because of the school issues.
Yep.
And it brought the people out. Well, if they want to say in town, and I have always said, if you don't come to town meeting, you have no say, because that's where you have your say.
Exactly.
You have your right to vote. You can vote on changing bylaws. You can vote. Elaborate a little bit if you can. Yeah. I know it's difficult because I don't know how to get them there.
Well, the thing is, when it comes to ideas, we have lots of great ideas. It's how the execution of those ideas come to fruition and whether or not it pays off. I do think that we've seen more people consistently attending and being there throughout for town meeting. And luckily, I don't know, you probably remember this, where you see a lot of these big ticket items that happen at the beginning of town meeting. So the number that you had to start out with is very different than the number at the very end, right? So I think there's a couple different things that we can do that have been successful. I think moving the town meeting earlier, I think played a huge role in being able to get more people there, because the later you're expected or thinking that you're going to be at town meeting, the more likely you are to have people that have childcare issues. So making it earlier, but not so early that work interferes in travel time, to the interferes. I think that's been a huge step forward. I think that getting childcare, we're working on childcare right now to make sure that we have that there so that people don't have to worry about who is going to watch their kids and whether or not the babysitter has to go when you're invested in waiting on a particular article.
And then you have to leave early.
Then you got to go. And that affects everything else. Doing that, you can never market early enough. That's the other thing. You can never market early enough. And I think one of the things that Laura does really well is in every single meeting, she really kind of goes through a lot of in a lot of detail about what the articles are, why it's important, why you should care. I think that's actually a really good thing, because the average person might know that town meeting is coming up, but if you're a casual voter, you might not know what's in that thing. You might know what's coming. You might know what the warrant is. You might know that there are articles that are coming that are important, but you might not know about something that might be controversial, or our typical dark horse that we don't think is going to be controversial, but then becomes controversial. So I think using the select board meeting leading up to that and detailing out what it is, and why you should care, I think that might generate some more interest.
I'm shocked over the years, Joe, because I'm a top vote teller.
Yeah.
And I've been shocked nobody's challenged the quorum, because after some of those big ticket items, I wanted to close my eyes and
telling
say,
you,
what's going on? Everybody's leaving.
Yeah.
It's hard. But anyway, we've got to move on. I'm trying to get as much on the plate here as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Schools. $63 million budget, 10.58 assessment, I believe, is the number to the town. Describe as quickly as you can the difference between the assessment and the increase in the budget. I know that some people think a 10.58 or a 10.85 increase in the budget is a $6.3 million increase. The increase in the budget is not 10.58%. It's the assessment to the towns.
Yeah, and then that assessment can come down. Well, I think the assessment can come down. I mean, what we've been doing is doing a really good job of trying to make sure that the towns are not really the towns, but the representative bodies, Whitman's select board, our select board, and the school committee are all trying to negotiate and navigate what actually makes sense. Because, again, I come from a background of running schools, collaborating and working with schools in various ways throughout my career. And I think I have a unique perspective in which I look at schools as a multifaceted institution nowadays, especially where a lot of people are on fixed income, a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet. So from my perspective, schools are a place for learning, that first and foremost. The whole point of school is to help children access the curriculum. I made a career out of trying to help kids access the curriculum and try to meet that need. And I think it goes beyond just curriculum and academics. It gets into food. The schools are required to provide meals. Why? Because they're supposed to, and a lot of the times, schools are the only meals for kids. And they have to have a nutrition. And even the regulations around DESE and the nutrition expectations have evolved to try to meet the needs for kids to be able to access curriculum based on nutrition. We have school nurses to be able to make sure that kids are healthy. They have their medicines. They have emergency inhalers and EpiPens if you need it. I come from a place where mental health and physical health are also incredibly important. So I do believe that having adjustment counselors and school counselors and things like that are incredibly important and are part of being able to assist children in accessing the curriculum. If you have ADHD and you're struggling, or if you have impulse control issues, or you have any myriad of mental health diagnoses, in the school day, it could cause, and I see firsthand in my profession, those issues, amongst other things, not just physical health, but mental health and behavioral health, getting in the way of kids being able to access care. So you're never going to see me criticize someone and say, these jobs shouldn't be here. They should not be part of the ask or the budget. The school committee also is charged with being able to do what they think is right for their constituents, which are the kids, their families, and the people they represent that elected them, right? But that all being said, I live in a house in which my grandparents are on a fixed income. I talk to them on a routine basis, and you've heard me say on this stage 1,000 times over the years that I do it for my grandparents that have been on a fixed income forever. My grandfather, again, is 94 years old. The first time I ever mentioned that was talking on this stage, he was in his upper 80s. It's been years since then. Insurance goes up. It's not like the Social Security is keeping pace with inflation. It's not happening. $30,000 40 years ago is not $30,000 today.
It's not even close.
Not even close. And I have my kids, and they need to access education. They need to be able to do it. So in my mind, I have to balance that. What does that look like? And for me as a board, I agree that we're kind of stuck at that 5%, and we really can't go above that. Not because we don't necessarily want to, but the idea is we can't. I'm not willing to sacrifice emergency, fire, roadways. I'm not willing to sacrifice highway. I'm not willing to sacrifice having to do budget cuts for anybody else, because one department is not more important than the other. Because if you're focusing on making sure that the school has the 10 point whatever percent, I'm not going to sacrifice the idea that we won't have firefighters in case something happens to your house. We got a windstorm going out yet last night and today. God forbid a tree falls down and you need to call somebody. I'm not cutting those people to help over here. And you've heard me say leading up to this that I want to see some good faith effort so I can make an informed decision. I want to be able to see what can you cut, what can you do, and the superintendent did give a couple of different options, but the school committee decided to go and go for the maximum assessment. That's fine, that's totally fine. But at the end of the day, if we can't afford it, we can't afford it. And I can't in good conscience go back and say, I'm going to try and put this tax burden again on a bedroom community in which we don't, like we said earlier, it doesn't have a lot of commerce right now. So I think we're caught in this double-edged sword. And the irony of this whole thing is that year after year, I feel like I try really hard to be very clear about this. I don't want this to turn into us versus them. It's not supposed to be like that. We're a community. Everybody's equally important, and I do wish that we would spend more time having those conversations leading up to a budget, knowing that at the end of at the beginning of the budget season around May, we should know what we're going to be looking at, and we should be having these conversations well in advance. And I do know from our from the select board's perspective, we do try to reach out. I mean, people have seen me look directly into the camera and say, if we can get a meeting going, I want to be able to be part of that conversation. So come this May, I think that to go back to your point about the purest form of government, we're going to see what that looks like. I believe that It's my job to represent the constituents of Hanson and to do what they want me to do. And I think in order to do that, I have to give the people of the town a choice. Where do they want to see their tax money go? How do they want to see it spent? I think if we deprive them of being able to make that decision, I'm taking their voice away from them. So I think they have a right to make that voice. But I would like to see, and I'm hopeful that the assessment does come down to something a little bit more manageable and tolerable, so that I don't have to pick between my grandparents and my kids.
So basically what you're saying, from what I'm taking from, and correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
let the people decide.
Yeah.
But if it has to be an override, that word that no one wants to hear,
Including me.
bring it, all of us,
Yeah.
bring it to town meeting. I mean, we all live in town.
Yeah.
My taxes are over 10 grand.
Yeah, I also think it's wrong that if you want me to not allow you to vote for that, I do think that's wrong. So I think it's important that people have a choice to get their voice heard, whether it be at town meeting, at the ballot box. Your voice does matter, and I don't share feelings that you should be deprived of your voice. If anything, I want to hear people more often than not.
Joe, in the conversation, we're getting close to the end, believe it or not, but in the conversation, you discussed that you're in the mental health issues.
Yep.
And going back into years and years ago, do you see way more mental health issues in today's schools than ever?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We refer to it as acuity, but, the acuity levels have gone through the roof. We're having more kids needing higher levels of care in terms of behavioral health schools than ever before. And being able to try to manage those behaviors, whether it be emotional outbursts or being, impulse control issues. Autism spectrum disorder has gone, what we call neurodiversity nowadays. Neurodiversity diagnoses have gone way up, and there's just not enough providers to be able to meet those needs, which 100% affects kids' ability to be able to access the curriculum and meet their
Which
needs.
comes at a heavy cost.
It does.
I mean,
Yep. We pay for them one way or another, whether we're in school and we're in a public school. We pay for it there through the resources provided, or that public school has to send a kid to one of those 766 behavioral schools or even a higher level of care. That school district still pays for that. That's why in the budget you're going to see some of those service line items go through the roof, because they're coming to places like that. You're not off the hook for those things. And that doesn't take into consideration vocational schools and Norfolk and things like that, agricultural schools. The cost all comes from the same bucket. So,
oh yeah.
And you know this, so yeah.
Everything has its cost. I mean,
it does. Nothing's for free.
Exactly. It's crazy what the costs have gone through with everything.
Yeah.
With everything that we do in today's world, and COVID, as much as some people on both sides of that coin, it drove the price of everything up.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, Joe, we're probably down to 2 or 3 minutes, so I'd like you to look in the camera and tell the people of Hanson why they should vote to re-elect you to a 3-year term on the Hanson Select Board.
I appreciate that, and thank you very much. I really hope to earn your vote on the May 18th town election, not just because it's Elizabeth's birthday as well, but also because I really hope that I have earned your vote over the years. I've been on committees and commissions for so long that people know my track record. People know where I stand in terms of trying to make every tax dollar stretch to the largest amount possible to do what's right for you, and that I've been there to try to meet the needs of all constituents that live in this town. I have a whole bunch of accomplishments over the years. I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to responsibly manage the budget over the past 3 years. We've been able to get in compliance in a lot of different things related to our audits and various audits throughout the towns and the town departments. I'm very proud of that track record, and I really hope that 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 I'm coming from a genuine place, and that I really take pride in representing everybody in the town, regardless of status and regardless of where you are. And I really do hope that my track record shows that. And I've earned your vote on May 18th. So thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've probably wrapped up all 3 candidates, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching Bring It On and got some extra information. We've got some exciting shows planned when Election 24 is over. There's talk of a possible future debate with all 3 candidates. I'm not sure that's 100% going to happen. But what we're going to try and do here at Bring It On is bring stuff on that will give the citizens a better education on taxes, like assessments on house values. I'm going to go to the town hall and see if I can get maybe a few people from the assessor's office to come in, sit here. I'll ask them the questions that you know that they need to be asked of how assessments come about, and it'll give you a better idea of how your tax bill is, because people all over town are saying, I'm overtaxed, well, I never hear anybody say I'm undertaxed.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
No, I've never heard that. Everybody says they're overtaxed. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed it today. If you want to contact me, we want your input. This show is about helping you, whether it's candidates or whether it's future shows to try and make the taxpayer and the people aware of what's going on in the town of Hanson. I'm going to try to bring a lot of different people on now year round, because that's some of the input I've got. But you can contact me at bobhayes4433@gmail.com, or you can call me on my cell phone at 617-538-0189. Every question will get answered. Every email would get answered. Everything is about trying to get people more aware of what's going on in the town. Whether it's Hanson Cleanup Day, I'm going to start putting all of that stuff out on the shows. So if any of you, whether it's baseball, football, Hanson Cleanup, RTC, DTC, any of it, if you have some meetings going up, send me the information. I'll broadcast it out on future shows, and maybe that'll help get more people involved, because good communities are about good volunteers. Thank you for watching Bring It On, and until next time, enjoy it.